All right, good evening, Clinton Street Theater. Thank you for coming out for the Portland Psychedelic Society. I'm Charles. I'm one of the volunteers here with the Portland Psychedelic Society. We are a volunteer-run organization that is dedicated to bringing you the best in discussion of psychedelics and plant medicines and how that impacts our culture. Just a couple of words tonight. With the psychedelic world, we will provide you with amazing information. We will provide you with amazing neighbors, but we will not provide you. Please don't ask. Please don't ask your neighbors. Everything here is for harm reduction purposes and education purposes only. So just be cool. Our presenter tonight is going to be speaking about some astonishing experiences with the paranormal, while sharing her exciting views on the link between psychedelics and the paranormal. Sharon's passion and career path include her private practice located in the Portland area as a psychic medium, hypnotherapist, and paranormal enthusiast and investigator. Sharon has over 15 years of experience in education in the paranormal and psychic field. She also facilitates various metaphysical workshops in the Portland and Washington area. Get ready to explore some astonishing ideas. Let's have a warm round of applause for Sharon. Come on up.
Okay. Oh, I can't see you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I first want to thank the Psychedelic Society for inviting me here today, and also the Clinton Theater for hosting this event as well. And tell me if I have the microphone too far from my mouth, okay? All right. So, let's see here. I'm here to talk about psychedelics and the paranormal, obviously. Leah, next slide, please. I have to tell someone to... There we go. Okay. Yep. All right, this is my disclaimer. Have to have a disclaimer. I'm sharing my own experiences and truths. My truths may not be your truths and your personal experiences. I am not endorsing the use of psychedelics or any other drug and or medicine, legal or otherwise. As always, please take what resonates and leave the rest. Okay? So, if we may move on, Leah. This is a little bit about me. That's me, so innocent back then. I was a psychic child, which I believe we probably all are. We all have abilities when we're children. Would you not agree? Yeah. Yes. Okay. And I did see what we call dead people. I was raised Catholic. Did not resonate with me as I was growing up. But because I was raised Catholic, I was taught to be afraid of my abilities and what I was experiencing. So I pushed it down. I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years old is when I started not allowing anything to happen. Because when I was a child, I thought it was normal. As probably a lot of you did. My parents divorced when I was 6, and there was a lot of strangeness happening in our mine and my sister's world around that time. It opened up a door for a lot of things, and that's a topic for another talk. I had an NDE at the age of 9, near-death experience, and I can tell you a little bit about that because I'm going to refer to it again later in the presentation. What happened was there was trauma involved or violence, and what happened was I felt pain and shot out of my body, and I felt this immense feeling of peace and just not caring about anything. And I was met by a light being who told me, I remember distinctly, he got down on one knee and looked at me in the eye and he said, "You don't have to go back." And I said, "But I haven't finished my job." So he tried to talk me into staying And I argued and said, but I haven't finished my work there. So I had an awareness that I didn't have while here when I was there. So he allowed me to come back. And as soon as I came back in my body, I felt the pain and went on from there. Whoever did perpetrate the violence on me was not there, by the way. He was not there. They had removed him from the scene. I am a native Oregonian, very proud of that. Anyone here a native Oregonian? Wow, no one, huh? Okay, so I don't meet too many of us, yeah. Okay. Pardon me? I was born in Corvallis, raised in Mount Angel, Salem area, around there. Yeah. What tribe, buddy? Okay. That tribe. Okay. So, next slide, please. This is me as an adult, obviously. Well, I do adult things, so that's why I call myself an adult. Okay. Okay. I went to a career in accounting and office management because my stepfather told me if you learn how to work in an office, you'll always find a job. So I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I did experiment with LSD and mushrooms in my 30s and 20s. And I admit I was a partier. I love to party. I love to have a good time. And LSD and magic mushrooms helped me do that. Okay, if you've experienced that, I love to laugh, and as you can see, and it helped me find joy. So, when my stepfather transitioned in '98, it was the first real loss I had had in my life, and we were very close. And I started experiencing intense paralysis and sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences. Is anyone here experienced sleep paralysis? Okay. Yeah, it can be pretty scary if you don't know what's happening, where you're paralyzed, you're laying in bed, and you are completely paralyzed. And you try to scream out, and it's pretty scary if you've ever experienced it. Well, I found a correlation between sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences. And I started learning how to leave my body consciously. And I have been a traveler ever since. And I am proud to say I've documented over 600 journeys since then. Yeah, and I had another NDE in 2001. And I actually believe that we've all had some kind of a near-death experience in our life. It's just that we don't remember them. That's my opinion and my belief. Because I think that we all have had some kind of a traumatic event, especially as we get older. There's something that causes this. So in this near-death experience, it was a lot different. I had, I write about this on my website, but I had fallen out. I went tubing down the road. I lived in Texas at the time, so I have not lived in Oregon all my life, but I went to Texas, lived in Texas at the time, and my friends and I went inner tubing down the river, and we had a really good day. At the end of the day, we were on a shuttle bus. They were taking us back to our cars, and I fell out of the back of the bus, and the trailer ran over my head. Yeah, and I popped out of my body right then, and I remember seeing a bus driving, another bigger bus driving up, and was about to run over my body, and I didn't quite want to watch that. Luckily, the bus stopped, but I remember that I was kind of bored with the scene, and I turned around and saw this light being again. And he talked to me and told me that I needed to come back, that my job wasn't done. And I'm like, but no, I want to stay. So he took me on a journey. And so it was quite different. I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back this time. But, I was, well, I don't know, nearly 40 or something. Or he helped me remember that I still needed to finish, still had work to do. Okay? So I came back. I don't think I had a choice. I don't know. Then after that, my psychic abilities began returning, and I have what I consider a successful practice, and I say successful because I see how many people I help, or that come to me that have received help through my abilities, and I'm not the one who's doing the healing. The people that sit in front of me are doing the healing. I'm just the facilitator. Okay? Alrighty. Enough about me. Let's talk about my book, like my boyfriend says. Okay. I don't have a book yet. I'm working on it. Okay, let's talk about paranormal. I think paranormal is misunderstood, the word paranormal. The way I understand it is it's just out of the normal, not scientifically explained. Would you agree? I think Hollywood and media gives it a bad, or a negative connotation, that it means something, negative. So to me, it just means out of the ordinary, which is pretty much my life. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. My early years with psychedelics. All right. So, anybody recognize that guy? I remember that show, by the way. So, and this is Jack Black on magic mushrooms. Anyone see that movie? The Pick of Destiny? Oh, it's so funny. You have to see it. A Sasquatch next to him after he ate some mushrooms. Okay, so I enjoyed LSD because it helped me at the time, and I would say I was microdosing. I didn't even know that it was called that. I just enjoyed it, and what I did was just enjoy life. I enjoyed what I had around me, and my friends and I were. I mean, I wouldn't say I did it all the time, but it was, every once in a while when we'd want to party, we did a little bit of LSD. Magic mushrooms. I loved magic mushrooms because I laugh all the time on magic mushrooms, and so that was what I liked to do with psychedelics back then. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, so there's my stepdad, John, and when he passed, I love this because that's how I feel after he passed, because I know that he was instrumental in helping me wake up, because I just, I wasn't in the greatest place when it came to spiritual growth. I mean, being raised Catholic, I didn't really, I'm not saying I didn't believe in God, I just didn't understand, what was going on within us, okay? And what we're all about, really. Next slide, please. Okay, so after I began waking up, I had what is called a quickening with my out-of-body experiences, and I had more loss. My mother passed. My biological father passed a couple years later, and I needed to know what happens when we die, right? So, because I wasn't getting the information I wanted from the Catholic religion, so I was meditating on a very regular basis. I was fasting. I was meditating. I agreed to be in my room at 9 o'clock every night and meditate for an hour at least. This really opened me up. I got the impression and to study hypnosis, because hypnosis helped me when I was going through my transition after my NDE and everything with my loss. And I was also going through a really rough breakup, and hypnosis helped me. So I thought, I want to help people with what has helped me. My instructor mentioned that to the class, to us, that people who have used LSD or used psychedelics are more open and able to to be able to get into a trance state easier, and hypnosis, they're able to be hypnotized easier. Did I say that right? Yeah, okay. Does that make sense? Okay. So, in other words, the psychedelics have helped open up your mind, our minds already. So it helps, the way I see it anyway, so it helps us to achieve that state easier, right? And I just love that picture because that's what it feels like in hypnosis. Has anyone here had hypnosis? Doesn't it feel, I mean, it's wonderful. It's, I love it for anything. Okay, next slide, please. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen this study. The one on the left is our brain on the mundane world, or what they use placebos in this study. And the next slide, or the next, this brain over here is what it looks like on LSD. That's quite a difference. Pathways have opened up a lot. Now we know what we're talking about when we say that we only use a small part of our brain, right? Because the gray is not being used. So that's, to me, that's huge. Next slide, please. So this is what they found out for anyone in the audience who is not aware of this study. I'll let you read this. I think that's huge, in my opinion. Now, if anyone has used binaural beats or hemisync, which I forgot to mention I was also using during meditation times, it also creates whole brain state. And this says a lot as well. So if you've used binaural beats, do you feel that wholeness when you're using them? Binaural beats. Oh, binaural beats are, you can find them on YouTube. Hemisync was the first, Robert Monroe created hemisync, where you have to wear headphones, and the usually with music, and it sends one tone, one frequency in one ear and another frequency in the other ear. And what happens is your brain creates a frequency to create whole brain synchronization as it hears the two frequencies. That's what causes the whole brain state. Hopefully I explained that right. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. So, yeah, it's amazing stuff. It really is. And you can use it for all types of things like anxiety, lucid dreaming, clearing your chakras, all kinds of things. It's pretty amazing stuff. Okay, next slide, please. The one after the other one. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, I'm done. How did you enjoy my presentation? There we go. Okay. All right. So this is amazing as well. And, you know, we're finding out, our society is finding out, because people want more, better ways to treat anxiety and depression. Luckily, scientists and research is looking at psychedelics and how it can help us in all kinds of ways. So I think that's huge. I really do. Okay, Leah. All right, the holographic universe. We're learning more. Science is helping us understand, and with our experiences too, that we live in a holographic universe. And with my experiences, I am knowing this or experiencing this more and more. So I'll share some of that with the next slide, please. All right. I'm using these slides to trigger me. These are my notes, okay? When I was fasting and meditating, I was experiencing some really crazy stuff. I was in a grocery store, and this is no alcohol, no drugs, no psychedelics, anything. I was in a grocery store shopping, and all of a sudden, everything in front of me disappeared, and I could see the holographic grid. And it lasted, I'm going to say 2 seconds, which is kind of long when you count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And I think it was a little bit longer than that, but it was about 2.5 seconds maybe. But I saw the grid. And again, there was no drugs, no alcohol, nothing involved. And I realized then that this is an illusion. We live in an illusion. We create our experiences, and I woke up really, really big time with that. I've always thought the movie Matrix is a documentary. Yeah. Would anyone agree with me on that? Except for the Hollywood stuff. Okay. Okay, next slide, please. So, I'm going to show you some photographs that my sister and I are getting. And we think these are very amazing. And I'll tie it all up in the end of the presentation, because they are teaching us so much about reality and how it is nothing at all like we think it is. So, these are photos. Do you see the grid? The grid lines? That's pretty amazing. These are in my backyard. These are 2 separate photos, actually. Okay, next slide. Here's another one that shows grid lines. The more we wake up when we're taking these photos, the more crazy they get. So the more we ask, the more we get. It's pretty amazing. This is actually my sister's photo. She lives in Washington, and we work together on this stuff. I mean, to me, this is amazing stuff. Next one, please. Another one that shows grid lines. Another one, please. Now these are orbs. I'm sure people here have heard of orbs, spirit orbs. In my near-death experience, the second one, not the first one, I saw a tunnel, and I was actually moving down a tunnel. And I do get emotional thinking about it. But the tunnel looked very similar to the orb, on the spirit orb, whatever you want to call it, on the right. If you can see the circles, I totally feel that these are portals. I believe they're portals. And these are depicting portals to other worlds, to other dimensions. I really like this one because it has an S in it. Okay, next slide. Can anyone see a face in the one on the right? Is it just me? Okay. Yeah.
How were these photographs made?
How were they made? with a camera?
Describe the process. You just are trying to take a picture of what? Of the grid?
No, we're just out there taking photos, asking Spirit to give us whatever they want to give us. Yeah. I'm setting the intention to give me something crazy. It's a communication. It's definitely a communication. And Spirit, who is ever working with us or working with me, pretty much gives me what I ask, I mean, maybe not that at that time, but the next day or whenever I go out and take more. And yeah, it's a communication for sure.
Are you isolating particular parts of the photograph and blowing them up?
Yes, I'm sorry. These are cropped. Yes. Yeah. Sorry about that. These are cropped so you can see more detail. Yeah. I mean, we'll get photos with a lot of them in the photo as well.
And are they inside or outside?
These are outside. We did get them inside as well. Yeah. Those are a little cheapy Nikon S100 Coolpix. Yeah, got it on eBay for like $35. The older cameras are the best for photographing anomalies because they don't have the filters on them that the newer cameras have. So I like this one. I don't know if you can see it real well, but there's a portal in a portal, and it looks to me like there's someone coming out of that little portal. Can you see that? Yeah. I love the colors too. Okay, next photo, Leah. Thank you. Now, is it just me? Or is there something in that center of that orb that looks like a being with big black eyes? What's that?
That's an evolution. Our brains evolved to see faces even when they're
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
based on the large ships.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think it's called pareidolia.
Parapsychologists.
Pareidolia? Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But we see that when we see the same things, it's without telling each other what we're seeing. It's a phenomenon. There's just too much that I've seen that go beyond what you're talking about, because I've heard that before for sure. I'm getting to that. Yeah. So these are portals, what we feel are portals. One on this side I feel is a portal, and another portal over here. Next slide, please. Light ships, what I call light ships. And the more I look at these, the more I open up my third eye. And I know that that's the intention with us, is to be able to open up our third eye more. Because a lot of us in the world today have our third eyes blocked. TVs, computers, cell phones, all of that. Okay, next slide. Some more light ships. We got these at ECETI. Has anyone been to ECETI? In the base of Mount Adams? Okay. It's a hotbed for weird stuff. Next slide, please. This is another one. I don't know about you, but I can see a beam coming out of the top of this light ship. So I think what I'm showing you is that there are so many beings that are anomalies or beings around us that are very, very different than us that we don't see. Does that make sense? We can't see with the naked eye. And I'm going to tie it all up together here pretty soon. We can't see these beings or these phenomena with a naked eye, correct? But the camera can catch it. Okay.
To see the full
Yeah, there's one there. Yeah. Yeah. Next slide. This is my first, what I consider my first ship photo. And that's the full image of it. And I got that one up there. This is at my house. And it looks to me like some type of a ship. I think that there's a lot of ships out there, whatever you want to call ships, vehicles, that we don't recognize because they're not, the normal metal type of craft. And I'm not asking everyone to believe in extraterrestrials or anything like that. I'm just sharing my experiences, okay, and what I see. So I think that's pretty cool. And I have a close-up of it on the next slide. Okay, next slide. These are some what I call insect light ships. For some reason, there are what looks like insects appearing on these light orbs. Do you see the scorpion? Looks like a scorpion and a fly. Is it too close up?
I see what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, this I feel is a Merkaba. Does anyone know anyone know what a Merkaba is? The light body that we can create around us with the tetrahedron. This was taken. My sister took this in Iseri. And I see a being in the middle of it. That's what I see. Is it just me? Is that pretty amazing? That looks like a Merkaba to me, a light ship. Okay. Next slide, please. That's close up. Do you see a being right in there? Right in the middle? His head? No? Anybody? No? Yeah? Okay. Okay, next slide. So what I learned, and I learned so much from these, and I'm going to tie it up. I learned so much from my photos. We know that we're light in nature, right? And that we're projecting our reality. We're learning that all the time. We're projecting. So this photo showed me that these three light beings here are projecting the colors, and what I could see are beings. It's not real clear on here in what they're projecting. To me, that's amazing. Okay, Leah, thank you. Some more light beings, I feel. Okay, next one. And I asked Spirit to give me a heart, and I think that looks like a heart. And they did. Okay, next one. Now these are pretty crazy because they've got ends on them. Light rods or tubes. I don't understand these, but they look like fluorescent lights. Some people think they're ships. They look like fluorescent lights to me with the ends. Okay, next slide, please. Light waves. These are my sister's photos. Next slide, please. Another one. And next slide. That's crazy stuff. Next slide. The colors are amazing. These beings are showing us how reality can be beyond our physical senses. Next slide, please. Does that look like a seahorse? Next slide, please. Is there a similarity there? Not at all. Okay, next slide, please. These plasmas, I love plasmas. They're my favorite. And these are some that I've gotten. No smoke, no steam.
Is that your window frame at the right hand?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Next slide, please. Some more plasmas. These were during the winter solstice. I think these are amazing. I see beings over here. Next slide. Does anyone see the cobra? Or it looks like a cobra? Next slide. And that's crazy. Now, it was raining. It was raining, but that's not rain. Next slide, please. Here's the full scale. And that's the face I saw up above my house. Do you see the face? Anybody? You see it? Yeah. Next slide, please. Now these are, could be insects. I don't see it, but could be. I mean, this guy's showing his butt right there. I haven't seen any insects that look like that. These are cropped, of course, but yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Next slide. Some more crazy stuff. This over here looks mechanical to me. I don't understand that. But pretty cool. Next slide. Okay, so this is a spirit photo of a person. When I was at a retreat in Washington, my roommate actually took this photo. And we were just taking photos, trying to get back in the day when we just wanted to get orbs. That's it. Just wanted to get orbs. And she got this photo just snapping up in the sky. Next photo. Whoops. There's a slide missing. Anyway, the picture of my dad that I showed earlier looks exactly like him. So we figured out it's probably my dad because he would do something like that. I wonder where the slide went. Okay. I had another picture of my dad there. And you can compare this, the shape of the nose and the lip and the forehead. And what's funny is he shows himself in darkroom glasses in spirit all the time because I used to make fun of him for wearing them before they were in fashion. Okay, next slide. Hopefully it's still there. All right. So my point is that in my experience with psychedelics, okay, I'm seeing these things that these pictures are showing me. Does that make sense? I see the grid. I see beings that are unexplainable. I experience tunnels. So what these photos are showing me, and that's the correlation I want to make here, is that they're not hallucinations. When you look out on the internet and you look up psychedelics, there's a lot of definitions of causing hallucinations. And I don't think they're hallucinations. Because I have photo proof that when I'm in a ceremony and I'm experiencing life beyond the veil, I guess you could say, when I close my eyes or see through our 5 normal senses, or not just see but feel, I'm experiencing everything that we are photographing. Does that make sense? Okay. So portals, I see portals. It's amazing that we're getting these photos now. And you can get them too. It's not just us, you can get them too. We figured there's 3 things that go with that go with getting these types of photos. If you're interested, is of course the person, they have to be open, and second, the area is probably a factor in it. In nature or somewhere where there's not a lot of dust around, things like that, and also the camera, okay, where there isn't a lot of filters. Okay, next slide. I love this quote. A scientist saying, intuition is our most valuable thing that we can have. So I know that when I've been in ceremony with psychedelics, my intuition is pretty much skyrocketed, and even afterwards as well. When I go throughout my day, there's a correlation there with opening up our intuition, because it's just a matter of opening the pathways, opening the avenues, right? And there's all kinds of ways of doing it. Meditation. I did it with meditation and fasting as well. Okay. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share my experiences. Again, what I'm doing is sharing my experiences with micro and macro dosing. When I was micro dosing with mushrooms, I did it. I microdosed for maybe 3 weeks, and what I felt myself was every day I felt a warmth in my heart. I felt connected in my heart. My heart felt connected. I felt connected to everything. I also felt full. I didn't feel hungry. I didn't feel like I needed anything. I felt, I'm not a depressed person or anything like that, or have anxiety, but anymore. But I felt connected, and I felt, I got up feeling, energized and really good about my day. And the main thing is I felt it in my heart center. So that's what I was feeling with microdosing. As far as macro, with the ceremonies I've done, for me it was intense. It's intense, and I see these things, and I see things like what I was seeing in the picture. I experience all that. I experience going way back and diving deep into my cell memory and my DNA, and I know that it's helping me clear a lot of really traumatic memories as well. So it's not an easy path. I guess we call it shadow work, right? It's not easy. I've done a lot of shadow work way back when I was meditating and fasting. I didn't realize I had a lot more to do until I macrodosed in some ceremonies. Okay, so but it's something that I know that is very healing. Okay, both ways, I would say, in my experience. Okay, next slide, please. one experience that I had with a recent ceremony is I realized how important our breath is. Our breath keeps us here, right? Keeps us alive, keeps us animated. And during the experience, when I closed my eyes, I could see my grid, my personal grid. And as I would breathe, I could see my grid become buoyant and alive as I took a breath. I saw how buoyant my grid was. And as I exhaled, it flattened out. And I'd hold my breath there for a little while, and I didn't see any movement with my grid. It just stayed flat. So it made me realize that our breath and breath work is so important with healing. My grid, my personal matrix, needed to be able to move around, and that's how we move stuff. I mean, I could see it. That's how we move stuff through our bodies, right? So being able to see that and experience that with in my own space and with my eyes, it helped me understand how important breath work is and how important our breath is, and to be able to breathe deeply, because we're shallow breathers, right? So it taught me that. And I got to breathe a lot up here. Okay. Okay. You know, the number one phobia is public speaking. Isn't that crazy? Okay. People would rather be facing a poisonous snake than stand up here and talk to people. Okay, next slide, please. All right. So, based on what I've learned with my experience with psychedelics and all the healing I've done up to now, is that we are on the road to an evolution where we will understand ourselves more. I believe psychedelics will, I'm going to say in the next 10 years or so, psychedelics will be used in mainstream medicine. That scientists are already finding out how it helps us with opening up our pathways and opening up our minds. Also, one thing I learned in my last experience was that I am able to write my own code in my matrix. Okay. I had an out-of-body experience right before my ceremony, not too long before my ceremony, where I accessed a timeline, a parallel timeline of mine, where I was in a life where I was able to write my own code and create what I wanted in my life, create how I wanted to look, what I wanted to do in life. And in my ceremony, I had the experience of understanding that soon I'll be able to do that, and so will everyone else. I'm pretty sure that most of the people in this room maybe already do that or understand that, but I had the impression, very strong impression, that we're moving that way, and I'm going to say within probably the next 20 years that a lot of us will be able to do that. So come see me in 20 years and tell me if I'm right or not. Okay, next slide, please. So, the end of my presentation, and I would say the end of reality as we know it, correct? Hopefully, yeah. Okay. Next slide, I have a couple more slides after that. Credits for what I shared, if anyone's interested. And another slide. Some recommended reading that helped me as well, opening up and understanding reality. There is mention of psychedelics in these books. And next slide, please. And if anyone wants to contact me for any reason whatsoever, there's my information and my sister's information, because she has some really amazing photos, and some people here know that. Okay. I think that's it. Is there any more? I can't remember. That's it? Okay. All right. Look.
Another round of applause for Sharon. And if we can get the lights up to about 50%, we can go ahead and do some Q&A. Do we have anybody that wants to express any questions, express any experiences that they've had? As soon as the lights come up, I can... Oh, here you go.
Hi. Oh, you want to hold it? Okay. Sharon, yes. When you take the pictures of the orbs, I know you said you're asking for spirit to show you. Do you ever communicate with them afterwards? Like when you're taking the picture, or do you want to know more from them, or are you just taking the pictures to see if anything comes up, or to communicate with them afterwards?
Yes, I do communicate with them afterwards, and I actually ask them to help me understand, because I analyze the photos afterwards, and I ask them to help me understand what I'm seeing and communicate to me what they would like me to learn. Yeah, definitely. I do get communication afterwards, and for a long time afterwards, because we have thousands of photos. So sometimes it takes a little while to go through them, and I go back and look at them, and I get more information then as well. Yeah. Also, I find that some of my photos, if I look at them from the macro, where I'm looking in small scale on my computer, I see something different. I see something larger. And as I zoom in, I see a lot of, other things, other dimensional things within that cloud or whatever it is, just like us. If we look at our whole body and then we zoom in and see, what's going on inside us, it's the exact same thing. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Brooke? Okay.
Okay, back here.
I was curious earlier in the talk when you brought up when you saw the grid, and you had mentioned, but you weren't on anything, or right? That's what you said.
I said yes. I wasn't.
Yeah. So
right.
is that so as to say if you do see those kinds of things while you're on mushrooms, that it's just bullshit or whatever?
No, I didn't mean it that way.
Okay, because that's what it sounded like.
I didn't mean it that way.
Okay.
No, thank you for saying that. That's not how I meant it. Yeah, I just meant that I wasn't microdosing or anything at the time. Yeah, sure.
Other questions or experiences? Okay.
I don't really have any questions. I'm just going to mirror what you're saying, that psychedelics can be used to open up a world into the supernatural. And I've used them for years that way, the same way. My experiences are fundamentally different, a little bit different from yours, but it doesn't matter so much. But I use them in a slightly different way, but it's still fundamentally the same. But they really do. I have a lifetime of experiences with these things, and I've used them, and they're a great tool. To me, they're more like a hearing aid. They can help you hear something. It's not as good as hearing with them. Sometimes you need to take them out. It's like having cotton in them. But they actually are very beneficial to you. All of those drugs are very beneficial to you. If you're on a spiritual path of any type and you're looking for the supernatural, you can actually approach that through these drugs, even through marijuana. It will help you. It will open those doors. It will help you open up. It will. With marijuana, I use it I'm starting to take it off track a little bit. But with marijuana, it's such a daily, it's just a good workhorse. That's something you can use to immediately quiet your mind and immediately to center and focus your mind. So you can use those drugs as a great tool. But like I said, they're like hearing aids. They're like cotton in your ear. You want to take them out sooner or later, but they're really very helpful. Ayahuasca, all those things. They're great things. If you're considering those things, don't be afraid of them. Do them if you can. I'm just sharing my experiences.
Sure. I see them as a tool. I think they're everything I shared, and we have lots of tools within, in our world, and it's a really good tool. Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I just kind of want to echo that in that in my psychedelic experiences, I've experienced paranormal things, reading each other's minds, things that just different experiences, I think, that add just a little sliver to our wisdom as human beings, and are outside normal reality enough to get our attention, and look for ways to prove that it really happened.
Right.
A couple that I've experienced that I want to share is on the holographic. I'm going to stand on the holographic world or something. Is that the world exists? This reality exists as a wall, and we just push into it and are in the world that way. But we can pass and go to another body, perhaps. Another one was this physical body as placenta that just falls away, and being of light takes off.
Nice.
So maybe we're born again and again and again.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you.
I'm just curious, what was your most like badass paranormal experience? Like where you're just like, holy shit! Like what? Like, because I've had some myself, but I'm more. I'd like to hear yours more. You seem to be a conduit, so.
Yeah. There's so many. Let me think. I know this isn't a topic on extraterrestrials, but I would have to say, growing up, being taken care of with extraterrestrials, by extraterrestrials. Yeah, extraterrestrials took care of me during some really horrible times as a child. No. Yeah. No, that's okay. Well, the reason I just hesitate to talk about it because I feel, whenever I talk about them, I feel them and I get emotional. So that's it. So when I was a child, I was being beaten and abused, and this is the male that killed me during my near-death experience when I was 9. Okay, so while he was abusing me over the years, extraterrestrials would come and get me. He would stop they would stop whatever was going on and take me on their ship and heal my body. I would see him in static motion where he's just completely, they stopped the grid or stopped his grid. I didn't understand it as a child. I just knew that I was being, tortured. And so they would, and so they would take me. I have 3 caretakers. I call them my caretakers. So I would say that's probably my wildest fear, if you want to call it paranormal, of all my memories. I mean, I've had lots of, being a psychic medium, I communicate with spirit all the time. So with spirit, that I don't consider that paranormal. Okay. Of course.
Is there something you can tell us that would demonstrate, like, is there some kind of wisdom you gained from your 3 teachers, protectors, in their ship? Like, what did the ship look like? Like, was it made of metal, plastic? Like, if you were on a ship, like, I'd love to hear about this. Like, and nobody else? You don't want to hear what a spaceship looks like? Like, nobody else is curious about this.
Well,
okay.
Well, I was a child, but what I remember is that it was small and it was silver. But when they would take me inside it, it looked a lot larger than it looked from the outside. Pardon me? Okay, and I remember the smell. It was, it's hard to explain, but it's like a lavender chemical smell. I remember that the most, I think, is the smell. And I do remember one of the beings, there was 2 males and 1 female, how they felt to me. And they were what we call the little gray beings. And the female is the one that would caress me, my hair and my face and everything, while they waved a wand over my body and would help heal my body.
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Hey, Travis. Good. How are you?
Oh, hey. We know each other now. They didn't know that. Okay, so anyway, as a young boy growing up in Idaho, I wouldn't expect that I would be in a place where I could access this type of information and ask these kinds of questions. And so I'm going to distill this down to here's the deal. How much do you think matters that you dropping, dosing, whatever your verb is? How much does the intention matter? Because it's been years since I've done something of the psychedelic spectrum, and I always experienced, felt something amazing, and I always would look in hindsight and think hindsight's 20/20, and I can just extrapolate something that's amazing. But how much of that is intention? How much do you want to go into that with, and how much focus is required? Like, I mean, in your experience, I don't know. That's my question.
In my experience, I believe intention is very important and probably the most important thing. Yeah. In my early years, my intention was to party, and that's what I did. And I was fine with that, yeah. With the microdosing that I did for 3 weeks, my intention was to see how it helped me feel, and it showed me that. I wasn't sure how it was going to make me feel. I didn't know. With the macrodosing in the ceremony, we talk about our intention. For sure, we set an intention. Yeah, so I feel it's very important. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah?
I saw a hand over in this.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
We met a couple years ago at a metaphysical fair.
Oh, okay.
And I remember you told me that you were in a relationship with a ghost.
Yeah.
That your boyfriend was dead and that you met him while he was a ghost.
Yes.
Would you share a little about that?
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Am I blushing? Okay. Well, I met a spirit when I was at that same retreat where I showed that photo of my dad, who I feel is my dad up there, and during a paranormal investigation thing, and he came through on my recorder because I get EVPs as well, and we connected for some. I connect to spirit, so it was normal, and we've been very close ever since. And he's my mentor on the other side as well. And I've seen lifetimes with him in parallel realities where we're together in a parallel reality. Yeah. So, does that answer your question? I don't know. Why, do you have a similar experience? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, okay. Thank you. Yeah, it is fascinating, and my life is pretty weird.
Okay, you've mentioned ceremony several times. Now, is this strictly a psychedelic ceremony, or is there some other context that this ceremony is a part of, that psychedelics are used occasionally as a sacramental booster, or what? Now, what's the ceremony, basically?
Okay, yeah. Well, the ceremony is a plant medicine ceremony.
Which medicine?
A plant medicine ceremony. Oh, yeah, plant medicine.
Which one?
Oh, I've had both mushrooms and peyote. Yeah, I've been involved in both, and I believe it's probably no different than a ceremony where you'd be sitting around maybe smoking pot. Yeah, cannabis or something like that. But it's a very high vibrational type of ceremony. Yeah, and we're there to support each other and experience together. Yeah.
A ritual format. It's a ritual format that you have devised, or is it in a cultural lineage, or? just just intentional?
For instance, do you open a sacred space to the cardinal direction?
Yes. Yes.
So a non-denominational,
Yes.
earth-oriented,
Earth-oriented.
ritual,
Yes.
circle situation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Shaman led. Yes. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Or here we go.
Hi, Sharon.
Hey, Monica.
I love you, and I thank you.
I love you.
I have a question. I'm a little embarrassed because I feel like it's going to be a newbie kind of question where later on I might reflect back and go, fuck, I asked that in front of all those people.
No. If I'm standing up here bearing my soul,
okay,
you can ask a newbie question.
I'm not sure how to word it, but here it goes. I always thought that taking psychedelics was just like to trip out, and whatever you experience is like all fake and whoa, what the hell, and you laugh about it later. Like my husband Travis here telling a story about before I met him, he's at some football game and whatever, they do some kind of drug or something, and they're talking, his friends are talking to him, but he can't pay attention to what they're saying because he's seeing a pterodactyl fly across the sky. And so I always thought that psychedelics were to do that. So I don't understand how or why these experiences you guys all speak of are actually legit or spiritual or of true source that I connect with when I do my healing work. How do we know they're not just like, oh, haha, it was just like a, fuck up your mind, fake. Like, does this make sense? Like, I don't understand how it's, how it's not, haha, the pterodactyl versus a real spiritual thing.
No, I think I understand what you're saying, Monica. Yeah, or asking. And I believe that was my point earlier, is that on psychedelics, if we're seeing pterodactyls and we're seeing these types of things that are crazy for our world, or experiencing that, it doesn't mean that it's a hallucination. I believe that it means that we're accessing another dimension, and that's how we're able to open up and be a more open channel for the work you do. You know what I mean? Because just because we're doing that or we're seeing that on the psychedelic doesn't mean we're going to walk. For me, it doesn't mean I'm going to walk around seeing pterodactyls unless I take pictures of them. Because I've seen in our pictures, I've seen like dinosaurs and things like that. It's like this big ocean of beings. The cameras are seeing through the veil, and so with psychedelics, we're able to see across the veil and see other dimensions. For me, anyway. And so, I believe it's just another way of seeing through the dimensions, and that doesn't mean that it's not real. What's real? None of it's real, and all of it's real. Does that make sense? So, opening up, I believe it's just helping to open up our channels. Okay?
We have time for a few more questions. Is there anybody that we haven't heard from that has a question out here yet? I said that we haven't heard from yet. I'm with you. Okay? All right.
I was at a Grateful Dead show in a football stadium, so it wasn't a football game. It was a Grateful Dead show. And I've been reading a lot of Jim Morrison lately, so I don't think it was crazy out of the world works, but anyway, that was it wasn't a football game.
It was. That makes a big difference.
Hey, Sharon, I had a question about if you could explain more about what the grid looks like or feels like to you, if it's kind of like a sacred geometry pattern or fractals or numbers or colors, like what it kind of looks like to you when you see that.
Okay. Yeah, the grid I saw in the grocery store looked very different than what I see in ceremony. The grid I saw was in the grocery store was blue and green, and it looked actually kind of static. It wasn't flexible from what I remember. It was just a grid around us. Or everything disappeared and I saw a grid. In ceremony, when I see the grid, it's a light grid, and it has so many amazing colors. I can't even explain what the colors are like, and it's fluid, and it's flowing, and there is fractal. But I don't actually see fractals in the grid, but I see fractals in the projections that I'm projecting. Does that make sense? Okay. But in the grid, it's just so fluid and beautiful. It's hard to describe. It's like those photos, like that, where it's just the colors are amazing and it's fluid. Yeah.
We have time for one or two more. Are there one or two more questions or comments out there? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious if you've had any kind of psychic experience with your sister, some sort of like ESP.
Yeah, pretty much all our life. And we noticed that we're very close, but we also noticed that if we take photos the same night, we get very similar things, even though she's in Washington and I'm here. So we're connected that way, too. We also feel that the beings that are working with us are connected with us, pretty much probably the same beings, although she probably has hers and I have mine as well.
Hi. I'm really excited to be here, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
A few years ago, I did some shaman work because I'm always about personal growth, and it was pivotal with my personal growth. And I wanted to know, how does that differ with hypnosis and the things that you do? Because I know how helpful, impactful it was for me to do that, and I'm very interested in just trying different things.
Okay. Well, again, I just think that they're all different tools, different ways of getting to the top of the mountain, I guess you could say, Hypnosis is what helped me at the time. I didn't know anything about shamanism or macro dosing or using psychedelics to help. I did it through meditation and fasting. As far as hypnosis and what I do, I find it's a really great tool to access the subconscious, and shamanism pretty much does the same thing, right? With journeying and using that tool to be able to access our records or our cell memories and clear things out. Am I correct? I'm sorry?
How exhausted are you? Do you ever feel exhausted after any work that you do with
Never.
patients?
It actually gives me energy. Yeah, because I'm channeling, so I'm channeling the higher frequencies. If I'm doing my job right, I'm channeling higher frequencies, and I actually feel better. Yeah.
We have time for just one more. Is there one more comment or question out here? Okay, seeing none. Oh, there is one. Okay. Well, just wait till the mic gets to you, because that way we'll pick up on the camera.
Somebody was asking about how do you know if this is how you know if you're getting a spiritual connection to these things. And sometimes these drugs, they have to come to you. Like, I want to tell you just this little story about a mushroom thing. And then I had a patch of amanita grow up next to my house, and it was my wife that did it. Actually, my ex-wife. We got divorced instead. But anyway, my ex-wife discovered them. And these amanitas, they were just exactly the amount that I needed, and I felt that they were meant for me. And so sometimes these drugs, they come to you. And when that happens, it's a special thing. It's something that comes from the divine. And that's when you know that the supernatural is behind these things. And the supernatural will use these things, like I said, as tools. And that's how it affected me. And that was a very very momentous thing. It changed everything in my life. And I took it and I dried them out. And I've never taken Amanides before. That was the first time. And it's scary, you know, but it was just the right amount that I had to take. And it was a very powerful trip. And it answered the questions for me that I'd had for many, many years. And it changed the course of my life. So, you know, you can hear about these stories, but when they change your life, and when you see it for yourself, then you have all the proof that you need that these things do happen. But it's not in the drugs itself. There's a supernatural power that's surrounding all of you, and you just aren't aware of it. And they will use those drugs. It will use anything. And when I was a child, it used a bunny rabbit was what it was using. That's how I connected to supernatural. And I was a toddler. I was 2 years old. But that was my connection. Was a bunny rabbit. It's changed over the years, but it hasn't changed very much. The divine is still there, and you can still discover them through these drugs. They'll open the door to it for sure.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we're all one. We're all trying to get to the same place, and we're all love. Just trying to find love. Yeah. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. There's t-shirts over here. If anyone wants a t-shirt for Psychedelic Society, thank you so much.
Thanks. One more hand for Sharon Kumara. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you.
We have Sharon's cards up front. We have Portland Psychedelic Society t-shirts. They're available for a $20 donation to help support more of this kind of work. We are also always happy to have more volunteers join our team. So come on up and get involved. Thank you for coming out tonight. We will see you all next month.